Ubisoft has been in the news for all the wrong reasons of late. An ailing brand, making a slew of aggressive layoffs, and canceling major projects along the way. You might ask yourself, how do you correct course in such a tumultuous storm? Simple, really. You lose the top sails, short the cable, man the capstan, and sail headlong into the past, aiming to recapture the magic of a former great. Ubisoft have been in desperate need of a title that effectively translates to printing money, and AC Black Flag has always been there as a break-glass option. However, that option to pull hard on the nostalgia lever also comes with the risk of souring fans on what is considered by many as the flagship title in the long-running series. A risk to say the least, but if done right, Black Flag Resynced could just be the salve to the wounds that the company needs. So, building from the ground up, we all have a chance to board the Jackdaw again, make Nassau a pirate's haven, and sing a few sea shanties as we go. An opportunity I was all too keen to sail towards. While some may disagree when looking back now, I feel that AC Black Flag is one of the few PS3-era games that still visually holds up today. It's absent of that piss filter most games had in that era, and it pushed the envelope on what an open world could look and feel like to explore. That said, it's undeniable that Resynced makes the original look like a relic by comparison. This new iteration is a gorgeous revamp that really brings the world to life, with dynamic weather and lighting effects, reworked animations, higher fidelity across the board, atmospheric touches that feel like more than just set dressing. Plus, you have the eye-catching water physics that are tantamount to a good pirate game. But above all, everything feels a lot smoother in transition, whether that be boarding a ship, running around rooftops, or skulking around a plantation. Simply put, there's less opportunity for that pirate's life immersion to break, allowing you to fully give yourself to Kenway's story. Ubisoft, with their Anvil engine doing the heavy lifting, has actually altered the Black Flag experience pretty extensively, and mostly for the better. I will concede that, at times I did feel that the ambient sound and score was, at best, too quiet, and at worst, completely absent at times where it would have added to the affair. But all in all, you have to give it to Ubisoft. They have polished a gem to make it shine even brighter. Graphical improvements and comparison shots are obviously what many will focus on, as it's the most point-blank comparison one can make between the two versions. However, this is far from a quick touch-up job. While I had mixed things to say about Assassin's Creed Shadows, one thing I loved was the stealth systems, as it offered freedom and gave each encounter a sandbox quality that older AC games struggled to do. Black Flag was one such game, but it certainly isn't anymore. Modern changes make sneaking around, choosing your routes carefully, utilizing parkour, and picking off enemies feel as satisfying as ever. Akin to games like Ghost of Tsushima, but without ever making the combat quite as involved as the samurai epic. Alongside this, parkour feels a lot more responsive than the older release, allowing Kenway to move with more fluidity, move faster, and move with more precision, so you don't end up leaping to your death or running up a wall with no handholds in a clutch situation. That's not to say that it doesn't still happen occasionally, and that's not to say that Black Flag is a parkour-heavy outing in the series. But when called upon, it feels smooth and satisfying. All this, while removing a lot of the frustration that came with older AC titles. You no longer have to worry about desyncing during tailing missions, as the game has added new outcomes to keep the ball rolling. Chests always have something of value rather than an arbitrary amount of gold, and no loading screens. Truly, this is a brilliant rebuild from the ground up. The changes to the Black Flag formula are almost unanimously positive across the board, modernizing the game and dragging it into the current generation. However, I would argue that the best aspects of Black Flag Resynced are directly linked to all the things that the developers didn't do. For one, the developer has taken out almost all references to the modern day, meaning you don't need to work through those boring abstergo scenes, or endure a side narrative that we all know today falls devastatingly flat, allowing you to focus on what matters, Kenway's story. Alongside this omission, the developers have not done something I had feared they would push forward with. They haven't crowbarred in any skill trees, grind-intensive gear systems, or level-based gatekeeping. All the aspects of modern-day open-world AC games that makes my blood boil. Instead, you have a game that gives you the vast majority of your abilities up front, and allows you to go anywhere and everywhere right from the get-go. Sure, you still have the addition of rather egregious in-game microtransactions, as Ubisoft continues to push this interconnected Animus nonsense for their own financial gain. But thankfully, it's easy enough to ignore in favor of the content that actually has substance. Plus, into the bargain, you have the naval combat that has mercifully remained almost entirely untouched. This served as the most unique and engaging aspect of the original, and that remains the case in this remake, offering naval combat that has arguably never been topped years on. Minor changes have been made, but they are all small alterations for the better, such as secondary fire options, new crew abilities, and smoother boarding of ships. So all in all, you don't need to worry about some sort of skull and bones copy and paste. I've mentioned that almost all things have either been altered for the better or left well enough alone. But the most divisive change for most players will almost definitely be the combat. Combat in this game essentially plays as a middle ground between the original and modern AC games, not quite feeling like a Souls-light, but also not feeling the classic AC. I'll say immediately that some will like this, but personally, I feel like it's missing something. On the positive side, changes like the ability to use the rope dart very early on is a welcome change, as is the addition of dedicated difficulty settings for traditional combat, naval combat, and stealth. It does feel like the one aspect of the game that Ubisoft couldn't help but modernize for the sake of it. The game no longer allows you to use other weapons beyond your dual swords, and you have no access to hidden blade combat. I'll be the first to concede that classic AC combat was basic and painfully repetitive at times. But this Arkham-esque combat was still phenomenal for the time, and served its purpose. So to change it takes away from the nostalgia many of us are seeking from remakes such as this. There's still a lot of enjoyment that comes from fighting huge groups of enemies, but due to stealth and parkour feeling much more satisfying by comparison, you'll likely avoid combat where possible in favor of a more subtle approach. Admittedly, the approach an assassin should take, but that really should be the player's choice, not one they feel pushed towards. The biggest compliment we can pay Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced is that it feels like the definitive way to play this swashbuckling adventure. A gorgeous, refined, and expanded version that changes a lot for the better, while leaving things that made the original great well enough alone. Not all changes are for the better, but overall, this is a successful remake, and one that truly feels like an Assassin's Creed game of old, with a modern facelift. Here is the overall score. But that's our review of Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced. What do you think? Is this the remake fans have been waiting for? Or did Ubisoft change too much? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.